So when I was young, I had a couple of nicknames. Probably the first one that I can recall was Little Rick. That's because I was sort of the spitting image of my father at the time as a young child. And I'm thinking of this stuff because I've recently lost my dad, and I'm trying to process and understand, what's going on in my brain, being able to deal with the loss. But that nickname Little Rick I didn't particularly love a lot. I wanted to be Chris. I didn't want to be a little version of anybody else. I just wanted to be myself. But in a lot of ways I embodied him, particularly physically. We looked alike and were very similar. Also, my grandmother would call me Christopher Miguel. My middle name being Michael, Miguel being the Spanish version of Michael. I don't know where she got that from, but it almost feels like it was planting a seed or something at that point, because I live in Mexico now. So maybe there's some sort of distant connection there. I think one of the more famous nicknames I kind of had through my whole life came from my father himself. He would call me Uncle Willie. No idea why. Whenever I give him a call, he'd pick up and say, "Uncle Willie, how's it going, son?" And that was something, as he kind of got older and got sicker, a lot of ourselves as well as our older ones don't necessarily want to be dependent on anyone else. They don't want to tell you when something's going on. They'll rather suffer in silence sometimes. But if I called him and he didn't call me Uncle Willie, I knew something was wrong. So you couldn't get away with that suffering in silence on that. And if you knew my father, he was somebody who enjoyed the finer things in life. He loved luxury cars, beautiful watches, handmade suits, tailored shirts, beautiful silk ties. And it wasn't necessarily about, material things and wanting to gather more material things. He told me one time it was really about, him growing up in civil rights era America as a black man, and there were certain things that you weren't supposed to have access to. You weren't supposed to have. And for him, collecting some of those things was a way to kind of be defiant. A lot of my family were Jehovah's Witnesses. They weren't out on the front lines protesting by any means. But this is his way of sort of quietly being defiant. And I remember even as a child of, walking around with him and seeing white people look at him and give him that look of like, okay, I see you getting out that Mercedes or that Jaguar, and you got that nice Rolex on your wrist, and the Rolex wasn't real. And he'd have a finely tailored suit, and they give him that look like, oh, you're not supposed to have those things. They give him a little strange side eye or whatever. And I think those are the times where now that I live in Mexico, I feel a connection to him in that way. Because even as coming here, there's a lot of people that grew up in the civil rights era sort of on the other side of the equation, from America and from Canada. And they see myself and people like me here, and they're wondering, what are you doing here? How did you get here? What do you do for a living? You don't look retired. And it's that same mindset of like, this is our secret enclave. This is our escape. You weren't supposed to find this place. You weren't supposed to be here. And even though that's not the reason why we came, it wasn't out of defiance. It was more of a escape from the craziness that's in America now. I kind of feel that connection with my father in that way of being defiant, even though I'm not trying to be defiant, trying to show them that I belong in this place, even though that's not my intent. So I guess in that way, I've maybe earned that title that I didn't love so much as a child, that title of Little Rick. I just wanted to share a little bit with y'all really quickly about some things I'm going through, the mourning process, and hopefully you can connect with that as well. If you're in Mexico, away from your family, possibly, going through a mourning period yourself and being away from family and that, and if you can kind of connect with me on that, feel free to leave a comment, maybe share your story if you feel so inclined. But I'm Chris from Chris and Jackie. As always, like, comment, subscribe. I got to say it in every video. But y'all have a great day. Peace.